So I'm normally giving you guys kick-ass strategies about wholesaling and flipping houses, but in today's training video, I'm going to be going through two of my favorite creative acquisition strategies that can really supercharge your real estate investing business, which are seller financing and wraparound mortgages. All this and more coming up right meow. What up, clever investors? Cody Sperber back again with another awesome training video, and today we're talking about seller financing and wraparound mortgages. These are two creative deal structures that are, some of the most creative, no money down strategies that are out there, and I've structured plenty of these types of deals using this strategy, so I wanted to share with you guys how to actually do this in your business so that way you guys, crush it in 2020 and beyond, and you properly use them. But before I go into a deep dive into today's topic, that one always gets me for some reason. Greg, how come I always do that? Today, Junior.
Today, Junior.
Into today's topic, I would like to welcome all my new visitors to the channel. Thanks for hanging out. On this channel, we focus on achieving financial freedom through creative real estate investing. So if you want to learn more about how you can do this, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, turn on post notifications. That way you're alerted every time I release new content. For everybody else, welcome back. Let's dive into this. All right. Now, seller financing and wraparound mortgages, they are two of the most creative deal structures out there, and I want to break them down so that way you can understand them. I'm going to do them separately. Let's start with seller financing. Now, one thing that you want to know about seller financing is that you're really going to use this strategy if the property that you're interested in doesn't have a mortgage attached to it, right? If they own the property free and clear. And seller financing is also known as owner financing or seller carrybacks. And the reason that you only want to use this strategy with homes that are owned free and clear is pretty simple. The seller is going to act as your bank in the transaction. Now, most homes that have mortgages on them usually have a clause in the current existing mortgage with the current existing bank that doesn't allow for seller financing. Now, the main objective of a creative seller financing type of deal is, like I said, to get the seller to be your bank and to carry back the paper, carry back the loan. That way you don't have to go to a traditional bank and use your credit and put 20% down and qualify for a mortgage. Now, essentially the way this is going to work is you're going to work out a deal with the seller where you're going to put a down payment. Obviously, you want a small down payment. You're going to put a down payment, and you're going to go to a mortgage calculator on your computer, and you're going to calculate what a mortgage will be spread out over a 30, sometimes even a 40-year period, and you're going to try and get it at 0% interest. Obviously, the lower the interest rate on the carryback, the better. And the give, and the reason that sellers will do this is because you're going to be offering them close to, at, or sometimes even above their asking price. So normally you approach a seller, a motivated seller, and you say, hey, I'd like to buy your property at a discount. Well, in this scenario, you're saying, hey, I'll give you what you want. Sometimes I'll even give you more than what you want, but I'll give you the price. You got to give me the terms. And the seller, if they agree to your terms and they carry back the loan and carry back the paper, they'll be placing a lien on the property, so their mortgage is secured, and they get the down payment, they get some cash flow, but they don't actually have to deal with the actual property itself, and they'll get paid off the final amount when the property actually sells at some point in the future.
Hey, Big Cody, that was confusing as hell, dog. Why don't you give these peeps a little example?
Okay. Great idea, little Cody. Here's an example. Now, let's assume that you're interested in purchasing a property and the seller wants $100,000 for the property. Maybe it's worth $100,000 today, and that's what they want. Now, instead of calculating ARV and then trying to buy the property for 50, 60, 65 cents on the dollar like every other wholesaler in town, all right, if the house is owned free and clear, go into your investor tool belt, pull out this creative deal structure and make them a different type of offer. Come at them and say, hey, listen, I'll buy the property for $100,000 if you're willing to carry back the mortgage. Now let's just say you both agree that they're willing to do that, and you agree that they'll take $5,000 down, and then you go into a mortgage calculator and you stretch out the mortgage payments over 30 years, maybe even 40 years or 45 years. You stretch it way out. That way your principal and interest is really, really low. And when you calculate it, you say, look, I'm paying you the price that you want, but I would like to make you payments until paid, which basically means that you're not going to be paying any interest on the money because you're kind of overpaying or paying full price for the property. And let's just say you put it into the mortgage calculator and it says, hey, for that $100,000 loan, or for the $100,000 purchase, putting $5,000 down, now you're borrowing $95,000 back from the seller. Let's just say that you stretch it out and you get your principal and 0% interest payments down to $400 a month. All right? And let's say you stretch it out over 30 or 40 years, but you balloon it in 10. So that way when you're talking to the seller, you say, hey, look, you're not going to have to carry this note for 30 or 40 years. We're just going to amortize it over 30 to 40 years, but we'll balloon it in 10. So that means there's a sunset on it and you'll get cashed out before you die, you know, that kind of thing. And let's say it's $40 or $400 a month is what the mortgage calculator comes back with. Now let's also assume that you know this property will rent for about $1,000 a month or $1,100 a month. That's like $600 or $700 a month in cash flow before taxes and insurance payments. That's a pretty good cash flow. All right, now this is advantageous for you because you purchase a property where you don't have to go to a regular bank, you don't have to use your credit, you don't have to put a lot of money out of pocket in order to get into the deal. The seller's going to carry back the $100,000. They're going to carry it for the 10-year period. You're going to be cash flowing that entire time. All right, the property is probably going to appreciate over time if you buy it in the right location. So that way, at some point in the future, let's say 10 years down the road, you decide to sell the property. Let's say now it's worth $130 or $140. At the same time, you've collected over $72,000 in rental income over the 10-year period. All right, and if you're smart and you snowball it and you reinvest all of your positive cash flow back into the deal, you can pay it off. All right, you can pay it off pretty quickly. Now, as you can see, seller financing can be an extremely powerful strategy to acquiring real estate that normally you would have missed out on those deals. You can quickly build a 6 to 7 figure rental portfolio using this one strategy alone. And some people have asked me in the past, Cody, why would somebody be interested in this type of deal? Why wouldn't they just, you know, try to get all their money and cash out and be done? And the answer to that is it's because you're going to run into a lot of property owners who are looking to get rid of a problem property. They're in a kind of a tough situation. And if you follow my content, then you know that there's a lot of these types of motivated sellers out there. And the most common type of motivated seller for this particular scenario is a distressed landlord or a retired investor who doesn't necessarily need money right away. They're motivated to sell. Maybe their tenants moved out in the middle of the night. They destroyed the place on the way out. This is kind of the ugly dog problem property in their portfolio. They're just over it and they want to launch it. But they're savvy, right? They're not going to just give the property away. Well, every other wholesaler in town showing up and trying to make them an all-cash offer at a massive discount. And then we show up and we do this creative deal and we say, look, we can take the problem part of the property off your hands, but you still get the cash flow that you like. All right. In fact, nearly a third of all real estate transactions in America, or real estate owned in America, is free and clear property. Cash transactions. It could be potentially thousands and thousands of individuals out there that are tired of their properties. They just want to get rid of the headache and they don't want to manage the deal any longer, but they still want the financial flexibility of collecting the cash flow, and they love the idea of acting like the bank. Now, outside of there being a really large pool of these individuals who are willing to listen to this creative seller financing pitch, this is actually going to give you a huge leg up on your competition. Like I said, a lot of other wholesalers, they're going to have one tool in their tool belt just trying to, you know, push forward with a all-cash offer, and you're going to be able to structure a deal like this. You're going to be able to close more deals. 9 times out of 10, the sellers, they're going to be talking to a lot of other wholesalers and real estate investors, all pitching them on the same thing, and you're going to be able to outmaneuver everybody with this seller financing angle. They're going to get what they want. It's a huge win-win. They get full price, or sometimes even above full price for their property, and you get the better terms. Now, who do you think the motivated seller is going to listen to and want to do business with? You. Now, there's going to be definitely some skills that you got to learn in terms of negotiating and positioning to be able to actually pull these types of deals off and convince them of this strategy. But I've already done a video where I do a live seller call where I start the conversation with the seller. So go ahead and check that out. It's going to be right up here. I highly recommend, if you like the strategy, watch that video. Now, let's talk wraps. Now, unlike seller financing deals, wraparound mortgages can be used for properties that have existing mortgages on them. I just showed you a way to do free and clear properties. Now let's talk about ones that have mortgages on them. These types of deals, they require a lot more knowledge and a really good closing agent that knows how to set up the paperwork properly. But here's the basics. Let's say you want to purchase a property, and it's the same scenario. It's a $100,000 property. It's worth $100,000. They want $100,000. They're not motivated enough to sell at a discount. So an all-cash offer is probably not going to work because they owe, let's say, $75,000 on the property. So they owe $75,000. They want $100,000, and they're not willing to let it go for any less than $100,000. But it's in a good, strong rental area, and it cash flows. Right? We can show up and say, hey, we really need to. If I'm going to pay all cash for this property, I got to be at like $50,000 or 50 cents on the dollar or 55 cents on the dollar to buy this property for all cash, right? But I know you can't accept that because it's below what you actually owe, and you don't want to do that. You want your $100,000. So here's what we're willing to do. We'll leave your existing mortgage in place, okay? It's got good terms on that mortgage. It's a good conventional amortizing mortgage. It's nothing wacky. We'll leave that in place. It's got a good interest rate on it. And what we'll do is we'll take the $25,000 that you want to keep, that's part of your equity. Now, we'll leave that in place. And what we'll do is we'll wrap the existing mortgage plus your $25,000 worth of equity into a new instrument called a wraparound mortgage or an agreement for deed. And what I'll do is I'll make you payments which equal what you pay on your current mortgage payment for a certain period of time, which is basically saying I'll pay your mortgage payment for you every single month for, say, 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, I'll either refinance or sell the property, and I'll cash it out, and we'll pay off your underlying mortgage, and I'll then pay you your $25,000 worth of equity. All right? You could do that where there's no interest and no payments on that. You could do it where there's payments on that, interest on that. You could do any creative way. I like to do them where they don't get access to it. We don't pay them on that. There's no interest on that, but we leave it in place. So at some point in the future, they will get it. And you just wrap everything and you start making payments. Now, the reason we do it this way versus doing another process called a subject to transaction is it doesn't trigger the due on sale clause. All right, and that's the big fear of doing subject twos is triggering the due on sale clause. The bank sees that the property was transferred, new owners, that's against the terms of the mortgage, so it accelerates the mortgage. We don't want that to happen, so we'll leave the mortgage in place. We don't actually transfer ownership, but we create this new instrument called an agreement for deed. We make the payments on that, which then pay the underlying mortgage. We then collect the cash flow. What's happening there is the mortgage is getting paid down, so we're creating our own equity through our tenants. We're collecting cash flow. If you're really smart, you'll do a lease option on the back end and get a $2,500 or $5,000. I've gotten them all the way up to $7,500, $10,000 option deposits. And, you'll collect these massive cash flows. And the tenants take care of the property. You don't even have to do any property maintenance. It's beautiful. So seller financing or wraparound mortgages on the front end on the acquisition, lease options on the back end. That way you can get those option deposits and huge cash flows. And it's two creative ways to actually get into these deals without having to come out of pocket a lot of money. What do you guys think? I know I probably just exploded your brains, but this is how creative transactional engineers, deal makers think, all right? And seller financing and wraps are super cool. They are a little bit more technical, another level of real estate investing tools in your tool belt, but now you know about them. And if you want to know how to actually deploy them and the paperwork and deeper strategies, you guys know I'm here for you. I have lots of training inside the Clever Investor training vaults. My students get access to creative deal structuring training. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the pinned comment down below and go a little bit deeper into your real estate training. All right? Until next time, that's all I have for you right now. I'm Cody Sperber, the Clever Investor, here with little Cody, and we're out of here. Take care. Comb your hair. Sperber's out.